Hi, I'm Mark Lutis, CPT. You know, a lot of people are talking right now about the World Health Organization's recent report on the effects of meat on our health. The following video was made this past Saturday, before I was even aware of that particular report, or at least before I had given it much attention as yet. But it occurred to me recently that the video you're about to see represents my view on the scientific basis for the health benefits of veganism. So I figured I would tie the two together in, as it were, retrospect. So enjoy the video, and thanks. Hey, it's Mark from ResistanceQuest.com, and I'm here out in the woods of beautiful New Jersey to briefly discuss what argument is the best for convincing people to go vegan. Because I hear a lot of different arguments, the moral, the scientific, the health reasons, or variants on those. It occurred to me there are always going to be people to whom no amount of science or health reasoning will have an effect. No matter how much we talk about the environment, no matter how much we talk about the level of toxicity of meat and animal products, for whatever reason, and the reason is fairly clear if you think about it, they'll fight us tooth and nail on those points. So the question is, what is the next level of reasoning? And the answer would be the moral level. The problem is, the very people who would deny the validity of the science that proves, or at least strongly suggests, that meat is dangerous, they'll use other science to disprove our moral argument, which suggests that science isn't really the answer. Science is not going to convince anyone of something they don't want to be convinced of. Additionally, there are always scientists who are doing research to prove their side of the argument. There are always going to be people proving that paleo is healthier than vegan, and there'll be people proving that vegan is healthier than paleo. There'll be countless articles and countless time spent on proving that one is better than the other. And they'll both succeed at proving it in one form or another. Whether that pro-paleo research is funded by the National Egg Board or not, and that's just an example of who could be funding it, is not really important. No matter who funds it, the people who support meat eating will use that scientific evidence, no matter who the source is. That's a generalization, but it's fairly strong. You see that a lot. Similarly, vegans use vegan science that is produced by vegan scientists, and you could say they have a certain bias. Whether that bias is based in science or not, it doesn't matter. They're biased. So where does that leave us? What is the answer in terms of convincing these people, if they are to be convinced that veganism is the answer? How is that done? The only real way is the moral argument. And you would say, well, the morality is subjective, so that's not going to work. And that's completely true. That's exactly, in a way, why it is the way to convince these people. No matter how strong our scientific or health-based arguments are, the strongest argument is that eating meat leads to the murder of animals, leads to the destruction of the environment. And these two things are the strongest evidence we have, and they are objective facts that they do that. They're the strongest evidence we have that meat is horrible, that meat has terrible consequences. And all the scientific data suggesting that as well is just extra. Because there are people who have been healthy their whole lives while eating meat. If there weren't, America eats so much meat, if there weren't healthy people eating meat, the mortality rate in America would be much higher than it is. When you have a moral conviction about something, it can turn you into a fanatic about that thing. But that has to start with an understanding or an emotional context for what it is you're arguing about or against, in this case meat. You have to form an emotional bond with the evilness of meat. That is to say, you watch videos of animals being slaughtered, that touches some part of you, suddenly you have a moral argument that that's wrong. Any other standpoint you can have can also be based in this moral rectitude. Any other belief that you have that you feel very strongly about can be based in a moral standpoint. And I have found that people who go vegan for health reasons, who go vegan for science reasons, generally don't maintain the diet. Now that's generalization, and I'm sure there are a lot of exceptions, but I think a lot of people can see and agree, especially celebrity vegans who go on it for completely uncertain reasons, whether just to be cool, whether it's some animal rights, whatever it is. These people don't stay vegan, like Miley Cyrus, Jared Leto, whoever they are. I'm not saying they're bad people, but there's something in them which allows them to morally break from veganism. And what that is a lack of moral certainty that eating meat is wrong. So in order to convince someone that eating meat is wrong, we have to get them to agree that killing animals is wrong. And once they agree with that, then they will see the obvious choice they have to make. But until they see that, they're either not going to turn around to veganism, or they're going to half-assedly turn around because they have no moral skin in the game. They have no investment in it other than an intellectual investment, a scientific intellectual investment, a self-interest investment in terms of the health benefits of veganism, or anything else. And these two motivations to become a vegan, science, intellectual, and health, self-interest, are not long-term. A lifelong vegan they do not make. A lifelong vegan is made by an understanding that animal slaughter is wrong and that environmental destruction is wrong. And until we can convince people that these things are wrong, they're not going to go vegan. And there are people who will defend the destruction of the environment. There are people who will defend the murder of animals until they're blue in the face, tooth and nail, or whatever other cliche you want. And there are plenty of mentalities or ideologies available for them to defend their viewpoint. There are plenty of people who would argue until they're blue in the face that killing animals is right because it's natural. Then you think about the fact that medicine is made by humans. Medicine is unnatural, but medicine improves the quality of our lives. So naturalistic fallacy is actually pretty easy to dispense. And the reason they hold up arguments like naturalistic fallacy or whatever other argument is used to justify destroying the environment or to kill animals is because of self-interest. They ask us, would you rather have a human be killed or a dog be killed? To try to get us to demonstrate a flaw in our moral standpoint. That we would choose the dog, we're anti-human. We would choose the human, we're not real vegans. But both of those choices are false dichotomy. And we know what they would choose, the human being. They would choose themselves. And all of their standpoints are based on self-interest. Self-interest governs their morality. So saying, killing the earth is wrong, destroying the earth is wrong, has nothing to do with them. And it would actually limit their self-interest to believe that. Same thing with meat. Killing animals is wrong. They would be limiting their self-interest to believe that. And they don't want to do that. They want to maintain their self-interest. So science can be used for both of these purposes, to uphold and maintain self-interest, or to, in some way or another, combat it as the principal virtue of our society. But the problem is, either side can use it. So the perspective I'm trying to convey is that the scientific argument and the health argument are flawed They will not convince people who are dedicated to self-interest as their prime virtue to change their behavior. The only thing that can is the moral argument, based on the understanding that we must come to with them that killing animals is wrong and that destroying the environment is wrong. And if they can't agree on that, if they can't accept that, if they want to continue endlessly to say that killing animals is right, well then kill their dog or take their dog from them. I'm not saying you should kill their dog, but you know what I'm saying. You draw a personal connection to them with meat, with animals. And you make it not so hard to understand why killing animals is wrong. I don't know how that's done. I don't know how to convince people of that. But that's the argument we need to take, the moral argument, because it is subjective. The moral argument is the best argument. To convince people. In a way, it's because morality is subjective that it's the strongest argument, and that it will have, in my opinion, the longest lasting effect. So that's what I'm trying to get across, really. That the moral argument is the strongest, and the more time we spend convincing people to understand that animal holocaust and environmental destruction are bad. I mean, how hard does it have to be to convince someone of that? You know, it takes finding where those things relate to them in their lives and drawing that conclusion to them. And it might take time to do. It's not going to be easy to do. We're not going to convince vegans. We're not going to convince people to go vegan overnight en masse, you know. It's going to take time. But the best way to dodge the my scientific evidence is better than your scientific evidence argument is to go straight for morality. Is it right? Is it wrong for animals to be murdered? Is it right or wrong for nature to be destroyed to feed the animals that we eat? Is it right? Is it wrong that there are millions of hungry people in the world who could be getting fed that animal feed? And just hammer that home. Hammer it home. Hammer it home. Because that's what's going to change them over. That's what's going to make them convinced and convicted vegans. And that's all I have for you today. So, this is Mark Luda, CPT with ResistanceQuest.com. I appreciate you listening to this video. And I'll talk to you all again soon. And don't forget, get out there and pump some iron. Hard. Hard.